Hello everyone, my name is NecroVMX. Welcome to my channel and you are listening to PotatoCast. So, I'm going to keep this one kind of short. I'm really just going to read your comments and maybe just talk about a few things. Talk about my week, definitely. First week at the new job and everything. And just kind of update you guys on everything that's going on, which is not a whole lot. But I want to keep it kind of short because it's in the evening. It's kind of later. And I was out of the house most of the day. I was watching my parents' dogs, and they told me that they asked me to watch them while they went out to dinner, and then they were gone for fucking 5 hours. So that's got me a little slightly irritated there, because I had no idea that they were going to be gone for that huge amount of time. Otherwise, I would have brought more over there than just my phone. But anyway, I wanted to read your comments and respond to them, and also tell you about how my first week of the new job went and how that's going. Which, spoiler alert, it's going great. But yeah, let me get to your comments and questions. Like I said, I'm going to keep it short because I haven't uploaded anything. It's like 9:30, and I'm like, oh shit, I got to do PotatoCast. Haven't uploaded my Isaac videos, so let's just go to your questions and comments here. So, let's start down here, actually. The Anime Fan says, I'm glad you got a new job, #PotatoCast. I'm somewhat surprised with your thoughts about bringing back Clear and Confusion, especially on the X-Men timeline, because I don't know how to group them until Deadpool's famous line, Stewart and McAvoy. Now, do you think a team of LGBT Marvel heroes would do or sell well? And finally, do you believe Fantastic Four plus The Rise of Silver Surfer was leading into its own series with anything having to do with Galactus, if they were profitably or positively reviewed? Okay, there's a lot to go over there. What a mess of a comment, but I'm going to try and... thank you about saying that you're... Yeah, you actually said glad. You said glad, but I'm pretty sure you meant glad. Why would you be surprised that I would think about bringing back Clear and Confusion? I don't know why you're surprised. The X-Men timeline is kind of all over the map, and I think it would be cool to go over it step by step and kind of explain everything, since there are some things that are inconsistencies. So, like, for example, Angel was in X-Men Apocalypse in the 80s, but then it showed him, in X-Men Last Stand, and that was more in the future. And it's sorry guys, I just ate and I got a little phlegm going. The issue that I had with that is they could be two separate characters, but it was never really explained. Obviously it's two different timelines, but I really wanted to go over that. A team of LGBT heroes, whether it was Marvel or anyone else, do I think that it would do well or sell well? I think that basically if it was Marvel, anything that they do is going to do well because of the good faith that they have built with their brand in movies. I assume you're talking about movies. I don't know about comic books, but I just think it's gimmicky. I mean, I honestly think it's super super fucking gimmicky, and it probably wouldn't be very good, because it's like if you have a group of superheroes and then you have a diverse cast, that's more interesting than them all being from some sort of similar background, or from them all having one thing in common. So I think that they're a lot smarter than to just bring a team of that. Plus, a lot of the LGBT people that I know, I think would probably find that to be almost exploitative, almost like, okay, we're going to cash in on the gay craze kind of thing. So, personally, I don't know about that. Fantastic Four, the 2005 version, and Rise of the Silver Surfer, I mean, leading into its own... I mean, it was its own series, but here's the thing about this. There have been 4 movies so far based on the Fantastic Four. There was one in the 90s, which actually didn't get released. It was directed by Roger Corman. Then there was the 2005 movie. There was the Silver Surfer one, and then there was the reboot. And, each of these, out of these 4, there was only one that was made for a reason other than just holding on to the rights. In the 90s, Marvel Comics had a huge issue with bankruptcy, and to save the company, they sold off movie rights to pretty much everything. And the Fantastic Four was one of them. Fantastic Four was sold to Fox, and nothing was done with it, and then they were going to lose the movie rights, and Fox, paid Roger Corman, who is notorious for being able to make a movie very cheaply, to make what's essentially an ash can. Unfortunately, they didn't tell Marvel about it, that it was going to be an ash can, so Marvel was actually promoting the movie in their comics, in their editorials and shit. So, that was kind of a mess. And then the 2005 movie was created also to keep the rights, and then the reboot one that came out 2015, I believe it was created to keep the rights. Silver Surfer, Rise of the Silver Surfer was the only one that was created just to be made. And ironically, even though it was kind of a sucky movie, it was also the least sucky out of all the Fantastic Four movies. So, I think that their heart's not in it. They never wanted to do anything with the Fantastic Four other than just to seemingly have the rights to make Fantastic Four movies. There's been no effort put into any of them, and the last one, I think that they could have been good if they had let the director make the movie that he intended to make. Maybe it would have been good. I'm not saying it definitely would have been good, but it certainly would have been better than what we got. So the mistakes that they've made with the Fantastic Four, it's kind of crazy. I was pretty done with it after the first movie. I only saw the second movie to make a review of it for a Comic-Con feature, and I liked it a little bit better, but I still hated it. So there you go. Brendan Kaplan said, glad you're excited to start. Glad you have some background. Had no idea you had some training already. Well, I'd work with you now, so really nothing to say to that you don't already know, so I'm just going to move on. SSerpent21 says, great stuff, and I'm glad you got a new job, Necro. Do you see yourself doing any streaming in the near future? I hope your sanity starts healing itself. I gotta tell you, man, you kind of put it in an awkward way, sanity to heal itself, but you're not wrong in the way that it seems to work. I really do feel like I've been crazy for the past 5 years, and I feel like I've tried to get out of it on my own, but it hasn't worked out, and that, Progressive Health was just a black hole. They were evil people. I say were. They still are, but I got nothing to do with them anymore, so it's okay. Streaming, I got to be at a place where I feel like I could give you guys the best I can, but I would like to return. I would actually like to make it a regular thing. Maybe not every week, but maybe once a month. I still do have a lot on my plate, but I'd love to make that happen. So let's see. Heisensall says, #Potato. Necro, I'm glad to hear you got a new job. I just got promoted to full-time at my job, and I'm pretty happy about that. It sucks there won't be a movie feature this year, but hey, that shit happens once in a while. Personally, I'd like to see it in February. I was just wondering, was there ever an LP that you started to record, but it just made you rage quit? Once again, congratulations on your new job. Thank you. As for quitting Let's Plays, it's happened twice. And I mentioned this in my reply, but I wanted to tell the stories. One was a legitimate rage quit. The other was more of a not so much a rage quit, but I call it that because it's funny. The one that was not really that rage-horrific was I was doing a Let's Play of the third Lufia game, which is Lufia The Legend Returns on Game Boy Color, and I had done the first two already. I actually did the second one first, which was Lufia Rise of the Sinistrals, although I played the European version for various reasons, which was just called Lufia. And then I did the first game, which was Lufia and the Fortress of Doom. They were both on Super NES. And the reason I did the second game first is because it was a prequel, and I wanted to do it in sort of story order. I was going to do the third game, and I actually got a fair ways into it, and I decided eventually that even though I do think that Lufia Legend Returns is a decent game, I think it's a lousy choice for a Let's Play, because so much of the gameplay is focused on dungeon crawling, which I personally find to be interesting, but it's not cool to watch. I don't think that it would have been interesting. There were a few funny jokes in the Let's Play that I wish you guys would have heard, like I was referring to the skeletons as Calista Flockharts. But I just eventually realized that it was just boring to make and boring to watch, probably. And I just decided that it was not going to be an entertaining Let's Play, and I decided to quit while I was ahead. It's an interesting game. It's pretty cool, but it's not near the quality of the first two games, and it doesn't make for a decent watch. The game that was like a legitimate rage quit was a PC game called Pure Solar and the Great Architects, which I got for Steam. Originally, the game was made in around, I want to say 2009 or so, and it was actually made for the Sega Genesis. They actually developed the game as a 16-bit game for the Genesis, and they actually sold cartridges and everything. And then they worked on, the HD version, which came out for Steam, and I think it might have even come out for like Dreamcast or something. And it seemed like a really interesting game, especially that you can on the fly switch between HD video visuals or the 16-bit visuals, and you could also switch the soundtrack between the chiptune set and like the more HD sort of music that you would hear in like the version that had the Sega CD audio on it. And at first it seemed like a really interesting game. I liked the characters, I liked the artwork, and I was especially interested to try it because they showed it on GameSack, which is probably one of my favorite, if not my absolute favorite YouTube shows, and it looked really cool. And I wound up just hating the game, and there was a point where I really had no idea where I was supposed to go next, because I would talk to all these NPCs, and there was like no clue as to what I was supposed to do, and all this story stuff had happened, and so I just decided to go to the only area that I hadn't been to, which turned out to be a dungeon. I get through it, I get to the end, or what I assumed to have been the end of the dungeon, and I was faced with a door that I could not open, and I tried a lot of different things, and eventually I was like, look guys, I gotta pause this video and look up a walkthrough, because I have no idea what I'm doing. And what I did look up a walkthrough, it was referring to something that made no sense to me. It was telling me to use like a robot or something to open the door or something like that, and I'm like, what the hell? I don't have a robot. What are you talking about, And oh, sorry about that. I eventually figured out what happened is that at the point that I was in the story, I was supposed to talk to this NPC, and that he would give me a this robot thing, and that would enable me to finish the dungeon. But the problem with that is I did talk to him, and that didn't happen. I was supposed to talk to him and then talk to him again. It actually required me to talk to an NPC twice to further the thing, and I was already getting very frustrated with the game. It was designed poorly. The story, like, I liked the characters, but the story, nothing was happening and nothing was making any sense to me. It wasn't coming together. And it wasn't like Illusion of Gaia, which didn't make any sense, but it was really fun. Because it had battles that were really long and drawn out and boring, and I didn't like the battle system. I didn't like anything about it other than I thought the characters were kind of interesting and I liked the artwork. So eventually I was just like, fuck this. I got really pissed off about it, and I wound up deleting all the videos that I had recorded, and I wound up deleting the game. I mean, obviously I still own it on Steam, but I uninstalled it. So that's the story of the two Let's Plays that I rage quit. Playholder says, Necro, you need a joint. If you're ever in the San Diego area, I'll buy you a blunt. Well, I don't see myself getting out to California anytime soon. I actually don't smoke weed. Not out of any sense of, like any moral sense or anything like that. I do believe that it should be legal and there's no problem with it. But it honestly doesn't do much for me. Although I've heard that the weed that people smoke now is a lot stronger, so maybe it would do. But to be honest with you, like if I wanted marijuana, I would just ask my parents for some, to be honest, because they are real pothies, if you get what I'm saying. He says, also, your I ain't your slave comment reminded me of my mother. She said it to me when I asked her to make breakfast when I was 8. It was weird. Also, yes, my name is Placeholder, but I like the way both you and another YouTuber say it, so I pretend the typo was intentional. My name is Ronnie, if you just want to address me by name. Well, thank you, Ronnie, and I guarantee you I will forget what your name is, because I am terrible with names. So, sorry about that. In advance. Cody Reed says, yeah, but there's pointing out flaws, and then there's pointing out their... Okay, I just want to stop and just... I honestly... I got no problem with your comment, by the way. I don't... I'm not bothered by it or anything. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I am so over it, the whole progressive health thing. I'm in a new place. I really don't want to talk about it anymore. It's not that, you did anything wrong. It's just that I'm really ready to move on with the next chapter of my life. And because the progressive health chapter was a shitty, depressing bullshit chapter. If my life was the Star Wars saga, that would have been the Clone Wars movie. So I'm just gonna skip your comment, man. No hate here. I just really don't want to talk about it. BioPhoenix says, finally caught up with your Potato Cast videos, and damn man, I'm sorry to hear what happened over the last few weeks, but it's awesome you got a new job. I fully agree with YouTube not being a job. Thank you. Yeah, YouTube. I mean, it could be a job, but like I said, the way that it is right now, it's not sustainable. Stormcrow95 says, hashtag potato. Thoughts on the new three X-Men movies that are coming out? I'm cautiously optimistic for at least Deadpool 2 out of the crop. The hit or miss aspect of sequels or sequelitis has me wondering about that. There's been more good X-Men movies than bad X-Men movies. I guess Deadpool 2, and then there's a bunch of them coming out. I mean, you mentioned 3, but I mean, there's Deadpool 2, there's Gambit, there's X-Force, and there's probably going to be another X-Men. Who knows? Deadpool 2 is the one that I'm the most excited about, just because I really did like the first one. I've always been a very big fan of this character. So I really think that, I'm always optimistic to see what's going to happen. Like I said, the last X-Men movie that came out that I didn't like was The Last Stand, and that was a long time ago. So, and really that's the only one that I just out and out hated. I mean, even X-Men Origins Wolverine, which a lot of people hated, I didn't. I have a review of it up where I gave it a pretty positive review. It's not by any means a perfect movie. It's got its flaws, but it was entertaining. I kind of took it as, kind of a take on the 70s action film, especially since it took place in the 70s. I thought that was kind of appropriate. All right. Alex Shannon said, so for some reason I've been getting a lot of skippable ads on your channel that don't progress to the video in the end, forcing me to skip to the video. Not sure why, but it's... okay, I talked about... I have no idea, man. I don't control what ads go on. I control if I put ads on a video or not, and sometimes that's even taken out of my control. And I control at what time the ads are. And I have no idea if them doing that is a glitch or not. I really don't know. The only thing I can tell you is maybe clear your cache and try again, because I was getting, some people were telling me that they were getting videos that had ads that were longer than the video, which I've experienced myself, but then they were only getting those ads, and it was getting really annoying. And they said, clear your cache. All right, I'm going to move on here. MM10 says, that absolutely fucking sucks about your liver. I've been diagnosed with hyperthyroid myself. No, I don't have hyperthyroid. I have hypothyroid. It's actually the opposite of that. Hyperthyroidism is when your thyroid is too active. And hypothyroid is where it's underactive, which is why I couldn't lose weight. Even when I was trying, it was why I was tired all the time. And, a few other things were going on, that were much more minor, but it turned out to be the I know they sound similar, but yeah, my weight has been a little roller coaster, having unexplained weight loss of about 80 pounds until finding out it was the hyperthyroid. Yeah, see, and I had weight gain, so followed by getting 50 to 60 pounds back while taking anti-thyroid agents. It sounds like you're going through a lot more shit with the liver issues, however. The liver issues are not symptomatic. As a matter of fact, I actually would have not known about it had it not been for my doctor just kind of being concerned when he touched my abdomen during last year's physical and just telling me that my liver was enlarged, and it was probably due to those medications that I had to take, unfortunately. I plan to try to make use of a bad situation, at least look at my illness as an opportunity to keep my weight down, but I ended up failing at that. We've had disagreements in the past, but I know how hard it is to try to deal with weight and back issues, and wish you best of luck. That home health care company. Oh, okay, yeah. I'm not gonna actually read the last part of your comment. Because not because it's anything bad, but because I kind of already replied to it, and that thing that you particularly mentioned, and I already replied to you on YouTube, is not something I want to talk about. Alex Shanna says, wait, you don't pay taxes on Google ad revenue. They had a whole thing set up where they were saying I needed to file W-1 or W-3 tax form every year. Oh, wow. Okay, no. I explained it kind of already in my comment, but when I say you don't pay taxes on it, and that's why it's not a job, what I mean is when you have a job where you go someplace and they give you a paycheck, what you are getting is wages. And if they say they're going to pay you X amount, whether it's X amount an hour or X amount a week or X amount a year, or however they have it, whatever agreement you have with your employer, that's not the actual amount you get on your paycheck. There's the gross and then there's the net. And taxes come out of it. Now, when you're paying those taxes out of your check, what you're actually doing is you're making, or your employer is making on your behalf, an estimated payment of what your tax should be. Now, when you fill out these forms when you're hired, the W-4 and the I-9, that is essentially telling your employer and the Internal Revenue Service how much tax you want taken out, based on exemptions. And that can get very complicated, and I don't want to get into it too much. But essentially, you pay taxes out of your paycheck, and then when at the end of tax season, what happens is you do your tax return, and you figure out you figure out what your income is, you make adjustments, and then you get your adjusted income, and then then you take credits out of it. And well, actually, no. I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. Credits come later. You get the adjusted income, then you do deductions, which lowers your adjusted income. There's standard deductions. There's itemized deductions. That could all get very complex too. So then you get your final adjusted income, and you figure out what your tax is, and then you can maybe take credits with actually a deduction on the tax, and then you look at what your withheld is. Withheld is what your employer withheld from your check. And usually, if you're lucky, your withheld which is your tax that has already been paid for that tax year, is higher than your tax, in which case you get the difference back, which is a refund. Or if it's exactly the right amount, it's a zero return. Or if your tax is higher than your withheld, then you will pay tax on your tax return. Now, YouTube income, when you get it, it goes directly into your account, whether it's PayPal or direct deposit or whatever you have set up personally. I have it as a direct deposit into my checking account. Is not taxed by YouTube because you are not an employee of YouTube. You don't have a job working for YouTube. You can say that you're self-employed, and that's a whole other can of worms to open when it comes to filing your taxes. But the way it essentially works is YouTube is making money off of the ads that you place on videos, and since you are a partner, it's called revenue sharing, because they are agreeing to share a percentage of the revenue they make with you. But when it is paid, it is not paid as a wage and is therefore not taxed. That's not to say that you don't owe taxes on it, because it's still income. And that's why at the end of the year, a lot of these YouTubers like PewDiePie or whoever, the ones that make big money, wind up having to shell out a lot of money. A lot of them have to incorporate themselves. A lot of them have to hire accountants to try and figure out deductions, to try and figure out, okay, if I use this, if I bought something to use as a prop in this video, then I can deduct it, as a business expense, that kind of thing. Because basically they're going to have to pay all their taxes because they have a zero withheld. From YouTube, at least. Because when you get the tax information from your income, probably in around January or early February, you get it in the mail. You get your W-2s, W-2 being a wage form, and you get your, from your jobs, and you get 1099s. 1099s are basically records of some, payment to you that they have already filed with the IRS. So YouTube or Google files it with the IRS saying, I paid this person this, and then they send you the 1099 miscellaneous, and you will see that it is whatever amount that they agreed to pay you, not with anything withheld out of it. So that's what I mean when I say you don't pay taxes on Google ad revenue, because they're not taking anything out of it. So since it's not taxed out of the checks you get, whether it's an online check or a physical check, it's not taxed month to month. You have to pay it at the end of the year. So that's a big thing. Like I have a friend who's also a YouTuber who had a big problem with her tax return because she didn't know that YouTube wasn't taking taxes out of her ad revenue, and when she did her tax return, it wound up that instead of getting the refund that she expected, because she has a real job as well, she's winding up owing money, which was instead of getting this windfall that she expected, wound up being a burden. And so that's a whole other thing, and that's what I meant when I said that. Let me move on here. This is the last comment from Alex Shannon. The PewDiePie thing was taking place during a sex scandal with Maker Studios, funnily enough. PewDiePie's boss at Maker, which is owned by Disney, was involved in a sexual assault/harassment scandal, and he contacted some of his friends at the Wall Street Journal to throw PewDiePie under the bus to save his own skin. Naturally, PewDiePie lost his Disney deal. Now, all right, I'm just going to stop here. No. Okay, first of all, that sounds like bullshit, because it is. That has nothing to do with YouTube, okay? Some guy nobody threw him under the bus. He threw himself under the bus, okay? He made videos that offended people, and those people got upset. And when you have as many subscribers as he has, over at least 10 million, because I know he has a diamond play button. As a matter of fact, I'm going to look it up right now. As of right now, at 10 p.m. on April the 29th of 2017, how many subscribers does PewDiePie have? Let's find out. He has 54.8 million. I'm rounding here because it's not exactly 54.8. It's more than that, but 54.8 million subscribers. So when you do things like he did, whether you, Alex, find it personally offensive or not, people were offended by it, and it bit him in the ass. And when you're working with a company like Disney, they don't want to deal with that shit. Whether or not somebody was having a sex scandal at Disney or Maker Studios or whatever the fuck has nothing to do with it. Maybe that person saw it as an opportunity to take the heat off of them, but that has nothing to do with what's going on YouTube. It really doesn't. PewDiePie dug his own grave. And really, that's just all there is to it. So, I really, like I said, I'm not really in much of a mood to talk about anything, because it's just been kind of an annoying day. But the week leading up to today has been really good. So I started work at my new job, which is at a doctor's office, which has an attached physical therapy office. My friend Brandon, who I've known for a very long time, works there as a physical therapist and has for the past 10 years. He hooked me up with the job, and it has gone really well. Really, really well. I'm not working full-time just yet, and like I said, it is a significant pay cut, but at the same time, I am much happier here. As a matter of fact, it's not that I'm much happier, because to say that I'm much happier here implies that I was happy before. So, I was not happy before. I had moments where I was not completely depressed, we'll say, but and I have come to realize, especially after starting here, that the past 4.5 years of my life were pretty much bullshit, and that's kind of why I'm really not wanting to talk about it anymore. So I'm doing medical billing and a few other things here, and so far it's gone swimmingly. The people there are really, really good people. There's not anybody that I don't like yet. And there's this one dude that's a little off, but I know why he's a little off, and he doesn't bother me. So it's just like he's just kind of a weird dude. I got no personal umbrage with him, but everybody like say, I mean, I'm just saying that the guy's weird, to be honest. But like I can't sit here and say that I'm not weird, or that Brandon's not weird, or that none of y'all listen to this are not weird, because what's normal but a setting on a dryer, right? And by the way, I'm not quoting Suicide Squad. I've heard that before that movie came out. But yeah, no, it's just gone really well. My eyes are open. I'm gonna tell you guys, my eyes have been, rolled back in my head, I guess, for the past 4.5 years, because I didn't realize how bad it was. I knew it was bad. I knew I was in a bad situation. But it's almost like an abusive relationship, when you get out of an abusive relationship and all of a sudden you're not subject to all that abuse. All of a sudden then you realize how bad it was. And a lot of people see this. It happens with women a lot. It happens with men as well. But people hear it more from women who are abused, whether it's physically or verbally or emotionally or sexually. It's always a, why didn't you leave this person? And they'll say, well, it wasn't all the time. There were good times too. And no, good times don't erase that. And it was like, why didn't, I have asked myself this question. Why didn't I quit? Why didn't I find something, anything? Why didn't I reach out? And I was looking, but why didn't I reach out and ask for help? Why didn't I say, hey, does anybody know a place that needs help? And I probably would have been at the place I'm at a lot earlier, to be honest with you. But because I'm sure, Brandon would have heard it and he would have said, hey, well, maybe I can help you out. And because this is what he did. But maybe it could have happened two years ago instead of now, when it was really starting to get bad. But people ask, why? I've asked myself, why didn't I quit? Why didn't I walk away? Why didn't I get something else, anything else, and just tell them to take a fucking oversized telephone from the 70s and shove it up their ass? And the reason is, well, I would say, well, and I've said this too, because people have asked me, it was very convenient. It's close by. I didn't have to use a whole lot of gas, and, and I'm good at it. I don't have to learn anything new that often, and I would make excuses. I'm good at the job. I'm familiar with the job. I've already been there. It's not completely balls ass awful all the time. Sometimes it's tolerable. And, does that sound familiar? Do you know anybody that's been in an abusive relationship? It all sounds really familiar. And I've known people who have been in abusive relationships, and me, myself, I've not been in any abusive relationships, thankfully. But, I've been in relationships that ended very badly, but I've never felt that I was being abused. So, but if you view a job as a relationship, and it is a relationship, it's not a romantic relationship or a sexual relationship, at least not usually, but a job is a relationship between employee and employer, and therefore it can be an abusive relationship. And if you view it that way, yeah, I was in an abusive relationship in that sense. And now I understand, why, because some people say, well, why, if a husband hits his wife, why doesn't she just leave his ass right there? Or if a wife, puts out a cigarette in a husband's eye, why doesn't he just dump her ass? Why do they stay together? How come you hear these stories of cops coming and saying, do you want to press charges? And they say no. It's because they don't want to bring more drama on themselves, and they think back and they think of the good times as well as the bad. You got to take the bad with the good. You got to take the good with the bad. But neither overrides the other, and there's a point where anybody reaches where they should not put up with any more than what they've put up with. I'm not saying that everything should be easy and that everything should be wonderful and that everything should go just really super well and everybody treats everybody wonderfully, because without conflict, life is boring. But at the same time, there is a threshold that you must reach where you have to say, no, this is not acceptable, and I'm not going to put up with it, so things need to change, or I'm getting the fuck out of here. And unfortunately, I didn't do that. They took that decision from me. My boss is a wonderful, wonderful woman, sat me down yesterday and said, I don't understand. How could anybody have fired you? How could you have gotten fired from this job? She said, in the week that I'm there, she's just like, this is great. I love having you here. And I said, I love being here. I'm loving it. I really am, guys. I'm happy here. You know, it's work. It's hard work sometimes. It's mentally strenuous. It's a lot of tedium, which I never really minded tedium, to be honest with you guys. But at the same time, I'm not there to jerk off. I'm there to do work, and I'm there to, you know, help them. They're there to help me, and it should be, yeah, like I said, it's a relationship, but it should be symbiotic, not parasitic, you know. And my previous job, parasitic. So, oh, and by the way, if anybody, if anybody from my new job is listening to this, by the way, I just want to because I know I did show my boss my YouTube channel, and she said she was going to check out some of that stuff. But I just want to let you guys know, the majority of people listening know this. But if you're watching any of the video game footage that I put up and you hear me bitching about work, just keep in mind that those videos were recorded months ago, actually last year. So I record things months in advance. So if you hear me going, oh my god, I hate my job, fuck everybody, I'm talking about Progressive Health. So I'm going to end it there. I actually went longer than I intended to. Normally I like to keep it about an hour, but today I'm just really wanting to just do anything that's not sitting here at the computer. I just really wanted, you know, do something else. So I'll see you guys next week. Keep an eye out for the Isaac videos, and we got, of course, coming up this week, the BioShock 2 Let's Play is coming to an end. I'm at the end of BioShock 2, as Brennan said. It was a cock tease at the end there, but I'm at the end of that. So we're going to be ending BioShock 2 and moving on to Axiom Verge, and of course Breath of Fire 3. That's still continuing. So leave me your questions and comments. I'll get to them. But please, could we move on from the Progressive Health thing? I really don't want to talk about it anymore because I'm moving forward and I'm not looking back. I've done a lot of looking back introspectively on my own and realized how bullshit it all was. It's time to say, you know what? We're done. I don't have to deal with them. And by the way, I just want to say something. All the people that I knew there that I considered to be friends, and there was a lot of them. There were a lot of people that I worked with that, you know, that I was friends with, that I would talk to outside of work, that would text or whatever, you know, and that I thought were cool people. And out of all of the people, only one person reached out to me after I lost my job there and asked me what happened. And even that person, I haven't heard from them since. So that just goes to show you, I'm not saying that these are bad people because they didn't I'm saying that when you're in that place, it's like a prison. You're locked in. It's like nothing else exists. And now that I'm not there to them, I might as well not even exist anymore. Which is crazy. But I understand it myself. So, I'll see you guys next week with more Potato Cast.